Hello and welcome back. Today I'll be going through the Privilege Cloud proxy configuration. My name is Brad McDowell and I'm a Senior Privilege Cloud Consultant here in Australia. And the objectives today is to first cover the proxy and network requirements we have in this lab. We'll cover the prerequisites checks and tests that we need to do in order to prepare the environment ready for the CPM and PSM install. And of course, we'll then install the CPM and PSM version 14 in this lab using the web proxy. And then we'll install and configure the secure tunnel version 3.1 using the web proxy. And then we'll install and configure the identity connector, of course, using the web proxy again. And because this is version 14, we'll configure the group policy hardening because it is updated. And then at the end, we'll test the CPM is functioning correctly. The PSM sessions can be established both directly and via the secure tunnel or HTML5 gateway. And then we'll test that we can log on to the environment using the identity connector. So this is a lab. Nothing's changed other than we've added some things. So we've still got the connector server 1 and 2 and the 2 PSMP servers that we've previously set up. But what's new is the connector server 10. It does not have internet access, so we need to install these components via the web proxy. The web proxy is just a Squid proxy that's running on a Linux server, and this server will have access to the internet, and you still need to consider all the network requirements for Privilege Cloud from the web proxy to the internet. This includes all the protocols and paths that are in the network documentation. In this lab, I'm only allowing connector server 10 to go via the proxy. You can still have a mixture of servers that connect to the internet directly, or and some have access to internet. So in your environment, you might have some servers that can't access the internet because of where they are in the network. They have to traverse through a proxy, whereas some you might have direct internet access. It's also worth mentioning that you still apply the same logic when it comes to SSL inspection, SSL decryption and re-encryption for both the web proxy and the firewall that the web proxy traverses through. If you have any of that turned on, the traffic will not work as the CyberArk software sees a different certificate to what it's expecting. With all that in mind, I'll switch over to the connector server 10 now and continue. So here we are on our connector server 10, where we'll demonstrate how to install the CyberArk connector components using a proxy server. At the moment, this server does not have internet access. And if we try and open up a web browser, we can't reach the internet. Before I enable the proxy server, I'll just show you how I've configured a proxy server in this lab. So I'll SSH onto the web proxy server. And I'll show you the contents of the Squid configuration file. This file, by default, was like this, but the only line I added was this one to allow the port 1858 over the SSL ports to go through. This might be different for other proxy providers, but this is what I did to get this working with Squid. So we'll get out of this server, and we'll close PowerShell, and we'll open up the Start menu and go to the proxy settings here. And we'll enable the web proxy. I've enabled it before, but you don't have to put in all you have to put in is the address like that. Now if we open up Edge, we can get to the internet. So we'll just go to the documentation page on how to use a proxy server with Privilege Cloud. And of course, at the time of recording, be aware this is currently under controlled availability. And for this to be supported, you need to get written approval from the product manager. So contact your account executive to start this process. If you don't do this, we can't guarantee support. Okay, so moving on, this is currently supported for the CPM, PSM, PSMP, secure tunnel, and also that's not listed here, the identity connector, which has always been supported. Anyway, I'll close this here for now, and I'll put this instructions on my other screen, and I'll get going with the configuration. First, I'll download the curl application from the internet. This will help us do connectivity tests via the proxy server. And I'll download the curl 64-bit. And we'll open up PowerShell as administrator in the bin folder. And in the documentation, it says to run the curl command. This will pick up the locally installed version of curl, which is a different version to the one I just downloaded from the curl website. If I run this command with the ./curl.exe, this will run the executable that's in this directory, which will output a different result. And as we can see here, the connection was established with this URL here. I'll do the other two URLs as well. It's also working as expected. And this is also working as expected. And I'll clean up these windows. And we'll head back to the C drive and the CyberArk folder here. And we'll open up the Privilege Cloud Tools folder. And at the bottom here, we have the Vault Operations Tester. There is a vault.ini file that will update here. And we'll replace this information here with what's in the knowledge base article. And so this will be your subdomain that goes in here, and of course your proxy details. Close that and save it. Now we'll go back up a folder and we'll go to this folder here, do not use PSM check prerequisites. Because we're not using connector management, I'm going to use this script here, and we'll open PowerShell as administrator. And we'll run this command here with the troubleshooting flag. And we'll select number 8 to run the CPM install connection test. We'll put in our vault address. And we'll enter in the installer user credentials. I just reset this today, so make sure that you've set that within the last 24 hours. As we can see, this has succeeded, so that's really good. That means we can communicate with the Vault via the proxy server on port 1858. Now that we've done that, next we'll disable IPv6. And we'll also enable the secondary logon service, if not done so already. And we'll press number 5 to enable the WinRM features. This gets disabled after the installation and is how the CyberArk CPM and PSM is installed using the older method that isn't connector management. So we'll press number 6 here. And that's completed successfully. And we'll quit this script and quit out of this menu. Now that we've done this, I'll now open up PowerShell ISE. And we need to edit these two config files for .NET Framework. So I'll just open this first one up. I'll scroll to the bottom. And in here, we'll insert the proxy details. So put this in the description. It's also found on the knowledge base. And on this file, we'll scroll all the way down to the bottom for the 64-bit. And here's the proxy details for the 64-bit. So we'll close this. And we'll close PowerShell ISE. So I'll close this. And we'll head back to the CyberArk folder. And normally after disabling IPv6, you should reboot, but the next step does do a reboot, so it won't do that. So we'll go into the Privilege Cloud connector here, and we'll right click on this and run it as administrator. We'll select yes. And this will install RDS and reboot the server. And as we log back into the server, it will run the script. We don't want to run. As we log back into the server, the script will automatically open up. We don't want this to run, so we'll close it. And we'll navigate to the CyberArk folder again. And to the Privileged Cloud connector. And we'll edit the prerequisites file here. We'll go down to line 341, and we need to comment out this function. And put in a return true value. And we'll save the script and close PowerShell. We'll open up PowerShell as administrator again, and I'll open up PowerShell ISE. This is so that it's in the administrator mode. We'll open up Notepad in the following location. And we want to set the PSM registration to false. We'll close this. We'll now type in the command sysdm.cpl. We'll go to the Advanced tab and then Environment Variables. We need to add some system variables. I'll show you that now. The first one will be HTTP proxy. The value will be the proxy server. The second one will be HTTPS proxy. And the third one will be no proxy. So in this variable here, we need to enter in the local IP address. I'll just grab that now. And we also need to put in the loopback address. We'll hit OK and OK again. Next, we'll need to open up the directory, packages, CPM, installation automation, registration, and then registration tool. And we need to create a file called vault.ini. And we'll enter in the following details. Next, we need to open a script, and that's found under Packages, CPM, Installation Automation, Registration, and Run CPM Register Component. And we need to find the following line. That's in the documentation, but I'll find that now. And here it is here on line 34. So we need to replace this line. I'll just comment it out with the following line. We'll save this. We'll close PowerShell ISE. And back in the Privileged Cloud Connector folder, we'll open up PowerShell as administrator again. And we'll run the installer.bat. We'll enter in the installer username. We'll enter in the administrator password that we use to log on to this server. I'm going to install this in the default location, and I'm going to allow the hardening to run. I'll install both components, and I'll make this an active CPM. And the CPM ID will be test-cpm, and just to make it easier for us, I'll call this proxy. So the CPM registration failed. I've done a short investigation and I figured out why that is the case. If we go to the File Explorer and we open up that vault.ini that we created earlier, we can see the icon. Immediately I saw the icon wasn't correct. And if we go to the view here and show the file name extensions, we can see that it appended the .txt, which isn't correct. So I'll rename that. And I also noticed that I pasted in the wrong vault address, which is this here. So I'll just fix that up now. This is the correct vault address for this lab. So we'll clear the screen and we'll rerun the installer.bat. And I've entered in the same credentials as earlier and the correct vault address, of course, and we're going to call this the test CPM proxy. And we'll press enter to proceed with the install. So as we can see here, the script is finished. However, we do have a hardening issue. That's because I'm running this connector server in Azure, and there's an extra step we need to do to allow the hardening to complete. So I'll just close this now and clear the screen, and we'll open up the C drive. And there's a folder called Oracle here. We need to right click on this and go Properties. We'll go to the Security tab, hit Edit, and then Add again. Change the location to the local computer and look for PSM shadow users. We'll hit Check Names. That's found that. We'll hit OK and OK. Then we'll navigate to Program Files x86, CyberArk, PSM, then Hardening. And we'll open PowerShell as administrator here. And we'll run PSM Hardening. We'll select No on this. And as we can see, the C Oracle has processed successfully. And we'll just close this. And we'll go back to the same location. And we'll run the PSM configure app locker. That's done. So we'll close this and the other windows too. Because the hardening failed in my environment, I'll go to the task scheduler. And in the library here, we've got the orchestrator. Now this will open up the script at the time of the user logging in. And if we look at the actions, it will open up this script to start the installation process. Because we've installed the PSM and CPM, we can now remove this. I just wanted to show you how that process is actually done. And this normally gets removed if you have a successful installation. And of course, in my case, I didn't, which is why it wasn't removed automatically. So we'll delete that and we'll close this. So I'll just flip back to the workstation and we'll just check to see if the CPM had indeed registered. And if we go to System Health, we can see the test CPM-proxy here. This is normal disconnected because we haven't rebooted the server post installation. So that's good. It did indeed register. And if we go to the PSM, as expected, we didn't see connector server 10 register. So that's fine. We'll come back to this later and review it again. Back on the connector server, we'll do the PSM registration. Go to Program Files x86, CyberArk, PSM, then the Vault folder. And we'll edit the vault.ini. This is where we'll put in the vault address. And update the proxy details. We'll save this. And we'll go back to the C drive, the CyberArk folder, the Privilege Cloud connector folder, packages, PSM, installation automation, and then registration. There's an XML file here that we'll edit, and we'll get the vault address. We'll replace administrator with the installer user, and then we'll accept the end user license agreement. And we'll close and save this. Then back in the installation automation directory, We'll open up PowerShell as administrator. And we'll run this command here that's in the documentation from the installation automation directory. We'll enter in our password for the installer user. And that's completed successfully. We'll close this, and we'll close this as well. I'll switch back to the workstation. Now if we go back to System Health, we can see connector server 10 is disconnected here, and that's expected. This should become connected after the next reboot. Before we reboot, I'll do the secure tunnel installation. So in the C drive, we'll go to CyberArk, the privileged cloud package, and the secure tunnel client installer. We'll run this as administrator. Accept the defaults. Now this window's appeared, we need to close it because we need to configure the proxy settings. We'll open up the C drive and we'll go to the program files 64-bit, CyberArk, secure tunnel, and the config folder. And we'll open up PowerShell as administrator. And we'll run this command to open Notepad as administrator and edit this application.properties file. This is where we can edit the proxy settings. We'll uncomment these two lines, stick in the port number and host name. We'll open up the secure tunnel icon on the desktop. We'll enter in our credentials and click next. We'll add an extra line here. And this will be only accessed through the connector server 10. We configure components. And this is so that we can demonstrate the HTML5 gateway later. And you might get an error like this. This is normal because I haven't rebooted the server, but I can confirm it has updated in the backend. So I'll just close this now and close the wizard. Back in the C drive and then CyberArk. I've got this certificate that I'll use for the PSM sessions via the HTML5 gateway. I'll import that now. We'll open up cert lm.msc. We'll go to the personal store certificates here and we'll import from the C drive, CyberArk. We'll change this to all files and this certificate here. I'll mark this key as exportable and finish the wizard. And this certificate here is a wildcard certificate so that I can use on any server in this lab. And this certificate is approved in the backend for PSM sessions. So I'll open up PowerShell ISE. And as mentioned in a previous video, we'll run the following commands to do the PSM certificate. We'll use this script to help us bind the certificate to the remote desktop services. And it's this thumbprint here. And that's been updated. I'll close this. Set it here, and we'll go back to the CyberArk directory here. The final thing is the identity connector. So we'll install that now. We'll run this as administrator. We'll accept the defaults. We'll finish the wizard, and shortly a new wizard will appear. We'll select next. We'll put in the installer user credentials, hit next, and then we'll provide the proxy details. and we'll just complete the wizard. And the connectivity check has been successful. We'll hit next. And we'll hit finish. As we can see, it's downloading an update because this was an old package, and we'll apply that update. And as we can see, that's updated. And back on the workstation, we'll configure some things. First, we'll create a safe. We'll call this PS_Brad _test CPM. We'll assign this to the test CPM via the proxy, and we'll hit skip and create safe. Next, we'll go to platform management, and we'll duplicate a platform, this one here. We'll just call this test. That. And this test platform we just created, we'll go to manage PSM connectors, and we'll change this, instead of being the load balancer, we'll change it to the connector server 10 for now. We'll hit save. And we'll go to configuration options, privilege session management, configure PSM servers, and this connector server 10 here, and server here. We'll update the address. And add the PSM gateway. Now that we've done that, we'll go to accounts. We'll add an account. And this will be the test platform we just created, and the personal safe I just created before, and the details for the test account that we're using. I'll just favorite this account. Before we test this account, I'll connect to the domain controller. And I'll open up Active Directory users and computers. And I'll move this connector server to the CyberArk version 14 OU I've created. If I open up group policy, we've got the CyberArk version 14 folder here. I'll just lock inheritance on this OU, and I'll just quickly create a GPO. And we'll go to the CyberArk folder on the connector server 10, and we'll grab the GPO from here. I'll just put this in the ctemp for now. We'll extract this, and I'll import the settings. Now that that's done, I'll go back to the connector server 10, open up PowerShell as administrator. We'll do a GP update /force, and then we'll do a GP results /r. And as we can see, we got the CyberArk Hardening 14.0. So we'll restart this computer. And back on the workstation, I can already see that this account has been automatically verified because I've got that set in the platform. So this confirms the test CPM-proxy did indeed verify this. I'll hit change on this account. And back on connector server 10, we'll open up services and we'll restart the CyberArk password manager. Back on the workstation 1, I'll refresh. It's currently checked out by the test CPM proxy. And after refreshing, we can confirm that the password was changed. Next, I'll make a connection, and I'll connect onto DC1 without the HTML5 gateway. We'll just test that first. As we can see, we're connected onto DC1 via the connector server 10. I'll just sign out. And I'll make one more connection, and this time I'll leave the in-browser mode switched on, which is using the HTML5 gateway, to DC1. And that works successfully. I'll log off. Okay, so that confirms the CPM and PSM is working successfully, as well as the secure tunnel. I'll now go and touch on the identity connector by going to identity administration here. And we'll scroll down to settings and network. And as we can see here, all the servers are active. What I'll do just to prove that connector server 10 is working, I'll shut down connectors 1, 2, and 3, and I'll come back shortly. Okay, the servers are shut down, so these are all set to inactive, and the only one that's active is connector server 10 here. So I'll just close this browser and reopen it again. We'll log in with Brad, and we'll use the security key. And I've logged on successfully, so that tells us the identity connector is working. And I'll finish the video here. We've got the CPM, PSM, secure tunnel, and the identity connector all working via the Squid proxy server. And once again, thank you for watching.